you have encountered them before. The ones who believe they are above consequence. The ones who weave their reality out of lies, manipulation, and grand illusions. The narcissist. A figure who stands tall, not because they have built something of real value, but because they have stolen, twisted, and coerced their way into a throne made of deception. The arrogance of the narcissist is not simply a personality flaw. It is a way of existing that defies the natural laws of truth and accountability. At the heart of narcissism lies an inflated sense of self-importance, a belief that they are superior to others and immune to the consequences that govern everyone else. This arrogance is not based on real achievement or moral authority. It is a fragile mask that hides profound insecurity and a desperate need for control. But what makes their arrogance so dangerous and so self-destructive is that it blinds them to reality. They do not see themselves accurately, nor do they perceive the world as it truly is. Instead, they construct an illusion in which they are the center, where everything and everyone exists to serve their interests. This distorted view leads them to believe they are above moral consequence. They manipulate, lie, and deceive because, in their minds, the rules that bind others do not apply to them. This delusion is what gives the narcissist a sense of power, but it is also the seed of their inevitable downfall. A narcissist's arrogance manifests in how they treat others. They see people as tools to be used rather than human beings with their own thoughts and feelings. Their relationships are transactional, built not on love, respect, or mutual understanding, but on what others can provide to feed their ego. This is why they target people who are empathetic, kind, and willing to give. These qualities, which reflect genuine strength, are seen by the narcissist as weaknesses to exploit. But there is a critical flaw in their thinking. When you view others as mere objects, you fail to recognize their power, to grow, to resist, and to rise beyond your control. The narcissist assumes their victims will always remain weak and submissive. This is a fatal miscalculation, because while they are busy inflating their own image and tearing others down, they do not see the quiet transformation happening in the people they try to dominate. Arrogance, by its very nature, breeds blindness. The narcissist becomes so consumed with their own importance that they cannot see the forces working against them. They fail to understand that the world is not shaped by their will alone. There are deeper, invisible principles at play, forces of truth and justice that cannot be manipulated or controlled. These forces are not always immediate, but they are relentless. And because the narcissist cannot grasp this reality, they inevitably push too far. They become reckless in their pursuit of dominance, convinced that no one can touch them. They believe their lies are unbreakable, their manipulation infallible. But reality has limits. The truth, no matter how deeply buried, always finds a way to emerge. And when it does, the narcissist is unprepared. Their arrogance prevents them from believing that their actions will have consequences. They assume they will always get away with it. But no one escapes reality forever. The collapse of the narcissist often begins subtly. At first, they may seem untouchable, thriving while others suffer, winning at the expense of those around them. But their foundation is weak because it is built on lies, and lies cannot sustain themselves indefinitely. Over time, cracks begin to form. The people they manipulate begin to wake up. Relationships fall apart. The facade of perfection they work so hard to maintain starts to crumble under the weight of truth. What once seemed like unshakable confidence begins to reveal itself as fear. The narcissist, despite their arrogance, lives in constant terror of being exposed, and that fear becomes their undoing. The very qualities they mock, humility, honesty, integrity, are the ones that will ultimately bring them to their knees, because while they are busy building a kingdom of lies, those who walk in truth are becoming stronger. The most profound irony is that the narcissist believes their arrogance protects them, but in reality it is a trap. By refusing to acknowledge their flaws or accept accountability, they ensure their own destruction. They cannot change because they do not believe they need to. They cannot grow because they refuse to admit their limitations. And so, while they may rise quickly, they fall just as fast. And when they do, they fall hard. This is not simply a psychological truth, it is a spiritual one. The world is designed in such a way that no one escapes the consequences of their actions forever. The proud will be humbled, the oppressor will be broken, and those who stand in truth will in time see their enemies brought low, not by human hands, not by revenge, but by the unyielding laws that govern moral reality. This is how the narcissistic devil is made to kneel, not by force, but by the weight of their own arrogance collapsing around them. The divine principle of justice operates as an unyielding and universal truth woven into the very fabric of existence. It is not merely a human concept, but a reality that transcends our limited understanding. At its core, this principle asserts that every action carries a consequence. What is sown must eventually be reaped. This law is not bound by human timelines or perspectives, but it is inevitable and inescapable. Narcissists in their arrogance often believe they are above this moral order. They manipulate, deceive, and exploit others, assuming that their power and cunning can shield them from the repercussions of their behavior. For a time, it may seem as if they succeed. They move through life without accountability, leaving a trail of broken people and shattered trust in their wake. Yet beneath the surface, something far greater is at work. The divine principle of justice is not idle, it is patient, it is precise, and it cannot be outrun. Narcissists function under the illusion that their lies and manipulations can go undetected indefinitely. They convince themselves that as long as they maintain control, they can evade exposure and consequence. This belief stems from their distorted perception of reality. They do not understand that there are forces beyond their influence, forces that weigh every action and intention. It is not merely a matter of human retribution, it is the moral structure of the universe itself that demands balance. No one escapes this principle. The very nature of wrongdoing carries within it the seed of its own destruction. When someone chooses deception over truth, they begin a process that will eventually unravel. This unraveling may not happen immediately, and that delay often emboldens the narcissist to continue their destructive behavior. But the delay is not a sign of absence. It is evidence of a deeper, more profound truth, that divine justice moves according to its own perfect time. The narcissist's arrogance blinds them to the warning signs that justice is approaching. They interpret a lack of immediate consequence as evidence that they are untouchable. This belief fuels their sense of invincibility and drives them to push their manipulations further. But there is a hidden danger in this mindset. Each lie, each betrayal, each act of cruelty compounds the weight of the inevitable reckoning. It is as though they are building a house of cards, impressive on the surface but fragile at its core. What they fail to grasp is that the structure they are building cannot withstand the force of truth. When that force arrives, it does not merely expose their lies, it collapses the entire foundation upon which they have built their identity. This is the mechanism through which the divine principle of justice operates. It does not simply punish the wrongdoer, it dismantles the very illusions that allowed them to believe they were beyond consequence. The process of divine justice is often invisible in its early stages. It works quietly, gathering momentum while the narcissist continues their destructive path. Relationships that once seemed under their control begin to fracture. The people they have manipulated grow stronger and more aware. Lies that once seemed airtight begin to unravel in the light of truth. And while the narcissist clings to the illusion of power, the reality is that their control is slipping away. This process can be agonizingly slow, especially for those who have suffered under their influence. It may seem as though justice is delayed, but the delay is not a denial. It is preparation. The unraveling must be complete. The truth must be revealed in a way that leaves no room for deception to survive. And when the time comes, the fall is not partial or temporary, it is absolute. The narcissist's downfall is not simply a matter of public exposure or personal loss. It is something much deeper. It is a confrontation with reality itself. For years, they may have believed that they could bend reality to their will, but when divine justice arrives, It reveals the truth in its most raw and undeniable form. Every falsehood they have spoken, every person they have harmed, every choice they made to elevate themselves at the expense of others, these truths return to confront them, and there is no escape. This is why the reckoning is so devastating. It is not just about the loss of status, relationships, or reputation. It is the destruction of the false identity they have constructed. When the truth emerges, it exposes not only what they have done, but who they truly are beneath the mask. And the weight of that truth is what brings them to their knees. For those who have suffered under a narcissist's control, the principle of divine justice offers a profound assurance. It confirms that no act of cruelty goes unnoticed and no lie remains hidden forever. The process may be slow and the waiting may be painful, but justice is certain. The narcissist cannot evade the forces that govern the moral order. Their arrogance blinds them to this truth. But blindness does not prevent reality from unfolding. Every manipulation, every betrayal, every attempt to control others is recorded in the structure of existence itself, and eventually that structure demands correction. This correction is not always immediate, but it is absolute, and when it arrives, it is not the victim who is left broken, it is the oppressor who faces the unyielding weight of truth. The fall is not only inevitable, it is the natural outcome of defying the reality that governs us all. The power of truth over lies is an immutable force embedded in the structure of reality. It operates beyond human manipulation, immune to deception and distortion. Truth is not a fragile or passive concept, it is an active force that works quietly and relentlessly. Lies, on the other hand, are inherently weak because they require constant maintenance. A lie cannot stand on its own. It must be supported by more lies, more manipulation, and more effort to sustain the illusion. This is the foundation upon which the narcissist operates. Their existence revolves around creating false narratives that protect their inflated sense of self and conceal their deepest fears and insecurities. They manipulate reality to fit their desires, believing that if they control the perception of others, they can escape the consequences of truth. But the truth, by its very nature, is self-sustaining. It does not require validation or approval to exist. It waits patiently beneath the surface, gathering strength until the moment arrives when it can no longer be hidden. Narcissists rely on deception as a means of power. They distort reality to control how others see them and to avoid accountability. This manipulation is not limited to words. It extends to their actions, their relationships, and even their self-picture. To maintain their illusion, they must constantly shape and reshape their environment, ensuring that no one gets close enough to see the truth behind their carefully crafted mask. But there is a flaw in this strategy. Lies require energy to sustain, and over time, the burden of maintaining multiple falsehoods becomes unsustainable. Every lie told creates a crack in the foundation of their illusion. These cracks may be invisible at first, but they are inevitable. No matter how skillfully a narcissist manipulates their surroundings, they cannot change the fundamental truth of who they are or the reality of what they have done. And these truths, no matter how deeply buried, always find a way to surface. The power of truth lies in its ability to reveal what has been hidden. It does not operate on human timelines, and it is not concerned with the narcissist's desire to maintain control. While deception may provide temporary relief or advantage, it is never permanent. The truth works quietly, exposing inconsistencies and revealing contradictions. Relationships that once seemed secure begin to fracture as those under the narcissist's influence start to recognize the dissonance between words and actions. People who once believed the lies begin to see patterns of manipulation, and the false image carefully constructed by the narcissist begins to crumble. This unraveling process is not always immediate, but it is certain. Lies, by their very nature, cannot withstand prolonged scrutiny. The more a narcissist attempts to conceal the truth, the greater the pressure becomes, and eventually that pressure reaches a breaking point where the truth emerges with undeniable clarity. When the truth confronts the narcissist, it strikes at the core of their identity. Their entire existence is built on the belief that they are superior, untouchable, and above moral consequence. Truth dismantles this illusion by exposing their flaws, weaknesses, and failures. It reveals the reality they have worked so hard to suppress, not only to others but to themselves. For a narcissist, this exposure is a profound and devastating blow. Their power depends on maintaining the illusion of perfection and control. When that illusion is shattered, they are left vulnerable and exposed. The people they once manipulated no longer fear or admire them. The relationships they used to maintain their dominance fall apart. Their lies, once a source of power, become the very thing that isolates and weakens them. This is the inevitable outcome of choosing deception over truth. The more elaborate their web of lies, the more devastating the collapse when the truth finally emerges. Truth is also transformative for those who have suffered under the narcissist's control. While the narcissist fears truth, the people they manipulate are empowered by it. Recognizing the truth breaks the chains of emotional and psychological manipulation. Once you see through the lies, you can no longer be controlled by them. This is why narcissists work so hard to suppress the truth. They know that it is the one thing capable of freeing their victims. But the truth cannot be silenced forever. It continues to work in unseen ways, revealing itself in moments of clarity and revelation. Over time, those who have been manipulated begin to piece together the reality of their situation. They recognize the patterns of control, the contradictions in the narcissist's words and actions, and the emotional toll of living under deception. This awareness is the beginning of liberation. Once the truth is known, the narcissist's power begins to fade. The emotional hold they once had weakens, and their ability to control others diminishes. The power of truth is not merely a philosophical idea, it is a living force that shapes reality. It does not need human intervention to operate, and it cannot be stopped by lies. Narcissists may attempt to rewrite history, distort facts, and manipulate perceptions, but they cannot erase the reality of what has occurred. Truth exists independently of their efforts to conceal it, and when the time is right, it surfaces with a force that no lie can withstand. This is why truth is the ultimate weapon against narcissistic deception. It does not require aggression or retaliation. It does not rely on human judgment or approval. It simply is, and when it emerges, it changes everything. The narcissist's carefully constructed world begins to collapse, and the people they once controlled are set free. No matter how powerful a narcissist may seem, they cannot escape the inevitable reckoning that truth brings. The downfall of prideful arrogance is not simply a psychological phenomenon, it is a universal truth woven into the moral structure of reality. When individuals elevate themselves beyond accountability, believing they are above others and immune to consequences, they sow the seeds of their own destruction. This is especially true for narcissists, whose prideful arrogance blinds them to the reality that no one can escape the natural order of cause and effect. The very qualities they perceive as strengths, their ability to manipulate, deceive, and dominate, become the instruments of their collapse. This fall is not accidental. It is the inevitable consequence of defying the principles that govern human relationships and moral integrity. Pride distorts perception, creating a false sense of invincibility that leads the narcissist to overreach. They become reckless in their pursuit of control, pushing boundaries, exploiting others, and ignoring the warning signs that their actions are unsustainable. For a time, this arrogance may appear to bring success. They may gain power, influence, and the obedience of those around them. But beneath the surface, their pride is building pressure against a truth that cannot be ignored forever. Arrogance leads to a blindness that is profoundly self-destructive. Narcissists are so consumed by their inflated sense of self-worth that they fail to recognize the limits of their power. They believe they can manipulate reality indefinitely, but reality is not subject to their will. The very laws they mock, truth, humility, and accountability, are the forces that will bring them down. This blindness prevents them from seeing the cracks forming in their carefully constructed image. Relationships begin to fracture as those around them grow weary of the manipulation. The people they once controlled start to question the lies and resist the narcissist's attempts to dominate. This resistance is often subtle at first, but it grows stronger over time. The narcissist, in their pride, interprets this resistance as weakness or disloyalty rather than a sign that their power is slipping. Their arrogance convinces them that they are untouchable, leading them to push harder and demand even more submission, but this only accelerates their downfall by increasing the resentment and awareness of those they seek to control. The fall of the prideful is also a consequence of their inability to adapt. True strength lies in the ability to recognize one's flaws, admit mistakes, and adjust accordingly. But narcissists, driven by their arrogance, view vulnerability as weakness. They cannot admit fault without shattering their false self-illusion. This rigid refusal to acknowledge reality traps them in a cycle of self-destruction. When faced with evidence of their wrongdoing, they double down on their lies. When relationships begin to crumble, they escalate their manipulative tactics. But reality is not flexible. The longer they resist the truth, the harsher the reckoning becomes. This is why the fall of the prideful is often so dramatic and irreversible. It is not a gradual descent, but a sudden collapse under the weight of accumulated deception and moral failure. They may appear powerful for years, but when the truth emerges, their entire structure of arrogance disintegrates almost instantly. What seemed like strength is revealed as weakness. What appeared to be power is exposed as fear. And in that moment, the narcissist faces a reality they can no longer escape. Another reason pride leads to a fall is that it isolates the individual from the support and wisdom they need to survive. Narcissists, believing themselves superior, reject counsel and ignore warnings. They dismiss anyone who challenges their worldview, surrounding themselves only with those who feed their ego. This isolation makes them vulnerable because they lose touch with reality. They no longer receive honest feedback or see the signs of impending collapse. Instead of learning from their mistakes, they become trapped in a feedback loop of arrogance and denial. This isolation not only accelerates their downfall, but ensures that when it happens, they have no one to support or defend them. The people they have used and discarded are no longer willing to shield them from the consequences of their actions, and the empire of lies they built falls under the weight of truth, leaving them exposed and powerless. This collapse is not merely a loss of status or influence. It is the unraveling of the identity they spent their lives trying to protect. The fall of the prideful is also a reflection of a deeper spiritual reality. Arrogance is fundamentally a rejection of truth and moral order. It is an attempt to elevate oneself above the natural laws that govern human existence. But these laws cannot be broken without consequence. Just as physical laws govern the material world, moral laws govern the human spirit. When these laws are defied, the consequences are unavoidable. No one, no matter how powerful or cunning, can escape this reality. Pride leads to a fall because it places the individual in opposition to the truth itself. And the truth is undefeated. It does not require human intervention to assert itself. It operates independently and with perfect timing. The narcissist's pride may shield them for a time, but eventually the truth breaks through, revealing the reality they worked so hard to deny. And when that moment comes, their fall is both inevitable and absolute. Humility is a force that disarms pride and undermines the power of the narcissist in ways they cannot comprehend. At the heart of the narcissist persona is a deep fear of being exposed as weak, inadequate, or ordinary. They rely on their ability to dominate and manipulate others to maintain the illusion of superiority. This is why humility is such a profound threat to their power. While the narcissist is driven by the need to be admired and feared, the humble person operates from a position of internal strength that does not require external validation. This distinction is critical because it means the humble person cannot be controlled in the same way others can. When you embrace humility, you remove yourself from the narcissist's game of power dynamics and ego-driven conflict. They thrive on provoking emotional reactions and manipulating your sense of self-worth, but humility renders these tactics ineffective. It is not weakness. It is an unshakable foundation built on self-awareness and truth. When you are humble, you recognize that your value does not come from the narcissist's approval or disapproval, making you immune to their attempts to control or diminish you. Humility also exposes the narcissist's weaknesses by highlighting the contrast between truth and illusion. While the narcissist is obsessed with appearances, the humble person is grounded in reality. This contrast is unsettling to the narcissist because it reveals the hollowness of their identity. They must constantly project an image of perfection and power, but humility does not rely on image, it relies on truth. When you embody humility, you reflect back to the narcissist a reality they cannot accept, that true strength comes from acknowledging limitations and embracing growth. This truth is intolerable to them because it undermines the false reality they work so hard to maintain. As you walk in humility, the narcissist's manipulations lose their effectiveness. Their identities, insults, and power plays no longer provoke the desired reaction because your identity is not dependent on their validation. This disarms them on a fundamental level because they cannot engage in conflict without a willing participant. When you refuse to play their game, the structure of their power begins to weaken. Another way humility disarms the narcissist is through the power of silence and restraint. Narcissists are fueled by chaos and conflict. They provoke, insult, and manipulate to draw you into emotional battles where they can assert dominance. Humility, however, does not engage in these battles. It allows you to remain calm and unmoved in the face of provocation. This silence is not passive. It is an active demonstration of self-control and moral clarity. When you refuse to engage, the narcissist is left without a target to manipulate. This frustrates their efforts and often causes them to escalate their behavior in increasingly desperate attempts to regain control. But the more they escalate, the more their true nature is revealed to others. Humility, by remaining steadfast and composed, allows the narcissist to expose themselves through their own actions. Their mask of charm and competence begins to slip as their frustration grows, revealing the insecurity and fear beneath their facade. This exposure is one of the most powerful consequences of humility because it allows truth to come to the surface without direct confrontation. Humility also dismantles the narcissist's sense of superiority by revealing the dignity and strength of the human spirit. Narcissists view humility as a weakness because they equate vulnerability with inferiority. But true humility is not about self-degradation. It is about recognizing your worth without needing to prove it to others. This quiet confidence is a direct challenge to the narcissist's fragile ego. When you remain humble, you show that real power does not come from controlling others, but from being grounded in truth and integrity. This is a form of strength that the narcissist cannot match. Their entire identity is based on external validation and the illusion of control, while humility derives its strength from an internal sense of worth. This difference is destabilizing to the narcissist because it reveals the emptiness of their pursuits. No matter how much they seek to dominate or diminish you, your humility reflects a truth they cannot escape, that their power is an illusion and their arrogance is a sign of inner weakness. Finally, humility invites divine intervention in ways that human effort cannot achieve. When you choose humility over pride, you align yourself with moral and spiritual truths that are beyond the narcissist's control. The narcissist may seem powerful in human terms, but no one can stand against the reality of truth and justice forever. Humility is an act of trust, a recognition that ultimate justice is not yours to enforce, but it will come in due time. This posture of humility opens the door for forces beyond the narcissist's comprehension to work on your behalf. The narcissist may attempt to elevate themselves above others, but they cannot elevate themselves above the truth. And when truth is on your side, no amount of manipulation or deception can ultimately prevail. Through humility, you allow truth to speak louder than their lies, and in the end, it is truth that brings the narcissist to their knees. The inevitable exposure of hidden evil is a truth embedded in the fabric of existence. No matter how deeply concealed or carefully orchestrated, wrongdoing cannot remain hidden indefinitely. This principle applies especially to the narcissist, whose entire existence is built on deception and manipulation. They thrive on secrecy, using lies to control others and to protect the fragile illusion of their superiority. Yet despite their efforts to conceal the truth, reality possesses an undeniable power to reveal what is hidden. This exposure is not random or coincidental. It is a natural consequence of how truth operates. The narcissist believes they can outsmart this reality, but every action rooted in deception sows the seeds of their eventual downfall. The truth does not need human intervention to come to light. It works quietly and persistently beneath the surface, gathering evidence against the narcissist's falsehoods. Each lie, each manipulation, and each act of malice leaves a trace, and these traces accumulate until they form a pattern that cannot be ignored. The narcissist's greatest vulnerability lies in their belief that they are immune to exposure. Their arrogance blinds them to the fact that no system of deception is perfect. No matter how carefully they craft their lies, inconsistencies emerge. These inconsistencies may go unnoticed for a time, but eventually they become too numerous to dismiss. Relationships that once seemed stable begin to fracture as people notice the gaps between the narcissist's words and action. Friends and family members who were once loyal start to question the narrative they have been fed. This unraveling process is slow but inevitable. As the narcissist continues their manipulations, the weight of their deception grows heavier. It becomes harder to maintain the illusion, and the truth begins to leak through the cracks. Small revelations, an overheard conversation, a forgotten lie, a moment of carelessness begin to accumulate until the full picture becomes undeniable. This is the point where the narcissist's power begins to collapse under the sheer weight of reality. One reason evil cannot remain hidden is that truth possesses a natural coherence that lies lack. Truth is consistent, stable, and self-sustaining. It does not require ongoing maintenance to remain intact. Lies, on the other hand, are fragile and unstable. Each lie must be supported by additional falsehoods, creating an ever-expanding web of deception. As this web grows more complex, it becomes impossible to sustain without contradictions emerging. The narcissist's constant need to control others and shape perceptions increases their vulnerability because it forces them to keep track of every falsehood they have told. This is an impossible task. Over time, the burden of maintaining the facade exhausts even the most cunning manipulators. They become sloppy, careless, and overconfident. It is in these moments that the truth begins to reveal itself. The people they once manipulated start to connect the dots. Events that seemed unrelated fall into place, and the narcissist's carefully constructed world begins to crumble. What seemed like an impenetrable fortress of lies is exposed as a fragile house of cards. The exposure of hidden evil is also driven by the moral structure of the universe itself. There is an intrinsic order that governs human behavior, a balance between right and wrong that cannot be indefinitely violated. When someone continually operates in deception and malice, they set themselves against this moral order. Their actions create ripples that extend far beyond their immediate sphere of influence. This is why even the most hidden acts of evil eventually surface. The universe is not indifferent to wrongdoing. It moves toward justice, often in ways that are unseen and beyond human control. This process may be slow, but it is relentless. The narcissist's belief that they can escape consequences is based on a profound misunderstanding of this reality. They assume that if they can deceive people, they can avoid the truth altogether. But the truth is not limited to human perception. It exists independently and will assert itself when the time is right. This is why exposure often comes from the most unexpected places and at the most inopportune times for the narcissist. Another factor that ensures the exposure of hidden evil is the resilience of those who have been wronged. Narcissists rely on the assumption that their victims will remain silent, isolated, and confused. They manipulate others into doubting their own experiences, fostering a sense of helplessness and shame. But the truth has a way of empowering those who embrace it. Over time, the people who have been harmed by the narcissist begin to reclaim their voice. They find the courage to speak out, to share their stories, and to challenge the false narrative. As more people come forward, the narcissist's power weakens. The shared experiences of those they have manipulated form a collective testimony that is difficult to dismiss. This process is not always immediate, but it is inevitable. The narcissist's lies may suppress the truth for a time, but they cannot silence it forever. Eventually, the weight of collective truth becomes too great to ignore, and the reality of their actions is laid bare for all to see. The exposure of evil is also a form of justice that transcends human systems. While the narcissist may evade legal or social consequences for a time, they cannot escape the deeper moral and spiritual reckoning that truth demands. This form of justice is not always visible, but it is absolute. The narcissist's actions create consequences that reverberate through their own lives. The same manipulations they use to control others eventually turn against them. They alienate those who once supported them, destroy the trust that sustained their influence, and ultimately find themselves isolated and powerless. This is the unavoidable result of living a life built on deception. No matter how clever or powerful the narcissist appears, they cannot escape the truth. The exposure of their hidden evil is not just a possibility, it is a certainty woven into the very structure of reality. Truth does not require human intervention to prevail, and when it emerges, it dismantles every lie that stands in its way. The fall of the narcissistic and prideful is not a matter of chance, it is an unshakable truth built into the moral and spiritual fabric of existence. No deception can stand forever, no manipulation can outlast reality, and no arrogance can escape the weight of truth. Those who build their power on lies, control, and deceit will inevitably find themselves trapped by the very forces they sought to wield. Their own pride blinds them to the limits of their influence, their manipulations create the conditions for their downfall, and their desperate grasp for dominance accelerates their exposure. The power of truth, humility, and justice is far greater than any illusion of superiority they attempt to maintain. While it may seem at times that evil prevails, it is only temporary, for the truth is relentless and will always rise in the end. The key is to stand firm, embrace humility, and refuse to engage in the narcissist's game. When you do this, you shift the balance of power and allow truth to do what it always does: bring down the false and uphold the real. Good luck on your journey of strength, wisdom, and resilience. May you walk in truth, knowing that no force of deception can stand against it. Thank you, and may justice and clarity always be on your side.
Have you ever quietly walked away from a man and still felt like he was the one who left you? Like even though he was the one who hurt you, you were the one lying awake at night? What if, just once, you could do something so subtle, yet so deeply emotional that he feels your absence like a shadow he can't shake? So much so that he stays up all night aching for you without even knowing why. This isn't about playing games or manipulation. It's about waking up the part of him that took your love for granted. It's about changing the balance, not by begging, chasing, or giving too much, but by stepping into your quiet strength. That kind of strength leaves a long-lasting impression, even after you've walked away. Many women don't realize they hold a powerful moment, a choice, or a truth inside them, something they can show just once that can change everything. When a woman who knows her worth shows up differently, even once, it can break down a man's emotional walls in ways he never expected. That's when the real magic begins. Have you ever been in the same room with them, speaking softly, trying to gently explain what you need, only for him to look right through you like you're speaking a language he can't understand? Maybe you've stood in the kitchen, dinner still warm, your voice shaking but your hands steady, saying something like, "I don't feel close to you anymore," and he just shrugs, or even worse, changes the subject. In that moment, something inside you breaks. Not loudly or dramatically, but quietly, like a small candle flickering in a room that no longer feels safe to shine in. This isn't about anger. It's about the pain of giving so much emotionally in a space that gives you nothing back. Women are often taught to over-absorption in relationships, to be the glue, the caretaker, the emotional translator. You've probably spent hours trying to understand his moods, explain his distance, and excuse his silence. When he's cold, you try to be warm. When he pulls away, you lean closer. When he goes quiet, you speak louder, not because you're needy, but because you desperately want to reconnect. Here's the truth no one tells you. Sometimes the most powerful thing a woman can do isn't chase, fix, or explain. It's to step back, not out of bitterness or anger, but with quiet dignity. When a woman who knows her worth gently pulls back her emotional availability, not to punish, but to honor her own limits, something subtle and powerful happens. It may not be obvious on the outside, but it's deeply felt. He senses your warmth fading, feels the change in the emotional atmosphere, and for the first time, not because you shouted or begged, but simply because you stopped overgiving, he begins to feel the cold he once created. Psychologists call this reversing emotional labor. It means stepping away from carrying both your feelings and his and letting him sit with the emptiness he ignored. It's like holding up a mirror but without anger or blame. It's saying, if you're not available, neither am I. But I'll do this kindly, without punishment, for myself. This isn't detachment born from pain, it's sacred self-care. When a woman stops pouring her emotional energy into a man who stopped receiving it long ago, he may not understand what's happening, but he feels it deeply. Sometimes days or weeks later, he feels a loss he can't explain. That's the shift. You're no longer the woman who waits by the emotional door. You are the woman who came back to herself. You didn't abandon him. You reclaimed you. And that moment, dear woman, is when the chase begins. Not because you tricked him, but because you made space for his own feelings to catch up with yours. So next time he grows cold, don't melt trying to warm him. Don't bend yourself to reach where he won't meet you. Instead, pause, step back. Hold your own heart carefully in your hands and quietly tell yourself, I no longer invest in empty spaces. Because when a woman chooses herself over emotional exhaustion, she doesn't just find peace, she awakens a man's longing. And often he won't even know why he misses her so much. From confusion to clarity, from heart to power. This is just the beginning. Have you ever felt like the more you try to give, the more invisible you become? You sit across from him, eyes searching for anything, a flicker of kindness, a hint of softness, a glimpse of the man who used to lean in to listen, but now he barely lifts his head from his phone. You ask how his day was and get a one-word answer. You smile, hoping he'll respond. He doesn't, so you smile even more. And inside you start to wilt because you've been taught to believe that if something's wrong, it must be your fault. But it's not you. It never was. There's a psychological thing called emotional suppression. It often shows up in men as flatness or coldness, a mask for vulnerability. When a man can't access or show his deeper feelings, he builds a wall. And when a warm, intuitive woman senses that wall, she does what love taught her. She tries harder, becoming softer, sweeter, more patient. She thinks, if I just love him enough, he'll open up. But slowly, quietly, she disappears. Her needs shrink, her presence fades, her joy dims. All her energy is spent holding up a connection that isn't mutual anymore. She's emotionally multitasking, carrying her feelings, his silence, and the hope that maybe one day he'll change. Here's what most women don't see. Chasing emotional connection with words won't work. The second forbidden phrase women often fall into is over-explaining their worth, saying things like, why don't you care anymore? Or what did I do wrong? Or tell me what I can fix. These come from pain, not weakness. But to a man who's shut down, they sound like noise. Not because you are noise, but because he's too disconnected to hear your truth. So what do? Stop begging for crumbs. Stop trying to prove you deserve to be seen. Instead, start living your emotional truth without asking for permission. That means saying less and being more. Let your silence say, I know my value, even if you don't. And this change is huge. When a woman stops using words to convince a man of her worth and instead uses her energy to show it, he feels something shift. It's not loud, angry, or manipulative, but it's clear. Because when you stop over-explaining, you create space. And that space feels uncomfortable for him, not because you punished him, but because he's left alone with the emptiness he once expected you to fill. This is when he starts to miss you, not your body, not what you do for him, but your presence, how you saw him, held space for him. Now that you've taken back that energy, he's left with a silence that echoes. This isn't a game. It's the end of the emotional chase. It's honoring the truth that your presence isn't something to be earned through suffering. So next time you catch yourself over-explaining, over-apologizing, or asking a man to prove your worth, take a deep breath, step back, let your stillness speak for you. You don't have to prove anything to someone who can't see you. You need to remember who you are and live from that place. When you do, you stop the spiral of self-doubt. You stop shrinking yourself to fit someone else's emotional limits. And you begin the real chase, the one where you run toward your own completeness. From confusion to clarity, from heart to power. This is just the beginning. Have you ever wondered why the more you show him how much you care, the more distant he becomes? You sit on the edge of your bed, phone in hand, heart tied in knots. You write a text, gentle, thoughtful, maybe even a little vulnerable, hoping this time he'll really see you. But his reply is cold, delayed, or sometimes there's no reply at all. And in that silence, something inside whispers, maybe I said too much. Maybe I'm too intense. Maybe I'm just too... But here's the truth. You are not too much. He is too limited to hold the depth of who you are. Let's talk about something many women fall into without realizing it. The third forbidden phrase that makes you feel smaller while hoping to make him care. It's the phrase that sounds like, I don't need anything from you. You might say this when you feel hurt, rejected, or tired from trying again and again. You tell yourself you're strong, independent, emotionally mature, but deep down it often comes from quiet giving up, a soft heartbreak disguised as strength. There's a pattern in psychology called emotional self-abandonment. You've been taught to believe that needing too much will scare people away. So you've learned to silence your needs, swallow your desires, and make your love easy to accept, simple, calm, and without demands. Every time you say, I don't need anything, what you're really saying is, I don't trust you to be there for me anymore, so I'll vanish to keep myself safe. But here's the tough truth. When you hide your wants to avoid being rejected, you don't grow stronger. You become invisible. Not to others, but to yourself. And it gets even deeper. Men aren't attracted to women who erase themselves. They're drawn to the quiet strength of a woman who knows her worth so clearly that she can ask for what she needs without feeling guilty. But for many women, asking feels risky because if you've been told you're too emotional or too dramatic, silence seems safer than speaking up. So let me share something important you might not have heard enough. It's okay to want more. It's okay to say, I want to be seen, I want to feel safe, I want to be chosen. Not because you're needy or weak, but because you're human. And the moment you own this truth, everything changes. You stop bending, shrinking, and pouring yourself into empty talks. Instead, you create a space where the other person has to meet you or step away. And if he steps away, let him go. Because if someone can't meet you at your real emotional level, they were never able to hold the real you at all. So next time you feel like saying, it's fine, I don't need anything, pause. Ask yourself, is that true or is fear talking? If it's fear, remind yourself, real strength isn't pretending not to care. True strength is caring deeply and still choosing yourself when your care isn't returned. You were never too much. You were simply giving someone depth when they only knew how to stay on the surface. From confusion to clarity, from heart to power, that's how the real chase begins. Not by chasing him, but by becoming the kind of woman whose presence brings truth into any room she walks into. And this is just the start. Have you ever looked at a man you loved and thought, why do I feel like I'm always trying to prove my worth to him? You give, you try, you change yourself until you don't even recognize who you are. Yet he stays distant, cold, unmoved. You start believing maybe if you just said things differently or didn't speak so much or stayed quiet or soft or smaller, then he would finally care like you do. That's when the fourth forbidden phrase sneaks out. It happens when you're emotionally tired and feel unseen, and you say, I'm okay, when you're really not. This phrase doesn't come from truth. It comes from survival, from the little girl inside you who learned early that being honest about pain meant being labeled too much or getting rejected. So you wear calm like armor. You say, I'm okay. Even when your soul begs, please ask again, please stay, please notice. This is emotional suppression. Psychologists call it fawning. When instead of fighting or running away, we become agreeable, too nice, or quiet to keep the relationship. It's not weakness. It's trauma wisdom. Your nervous system doing what it must to protect love, no matter the cost. But the cost is very high. Every time you say, I'm okay when you're not, you teach your body your pain isn't allowed. You tell your partner they don't need to look closer. You send a message that you'll accept scraps and call it a feast. Over time, you forget how your own voice sounds. You lose your truth. I want to say something bold. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't need to make your pain look prettier so someone will stay. You don't need to hide your feelings to make love easier. Because hiding your needs doesn't protect your relationship. It breaks it down. Real closeness starts when a woman says, I'm not okay, and knows that saying this doesn't make her less lovable. It makes her real. A man who's truly emotionally available won't run away from that honesty. He'll lean in and meet you. And if he doesn't, that's not because you're broken. That's your clarity. Life pulling off the mask, showing who can really love the whole you, not just the easy parts. So next time your lips form the words, I'm okay, pause and breathe. Ask yourself, am I saying this because it's true or because I'm scared of what happens if I say what I really feel? You spent so long quieting yourself to keep someone else comfortable. But what if your honesty isn't the danger? What if it's the doorway to real connection, real healing, real love? You don't have to be easy to love. You just have to be honest. And from that honesty, your power will return. From confusion to clarity, from heart to power. That's when you stop apologizing for your feelings and start honoring them as your strength. Have you ever found yourself quietly thinking, maybe I'm asking for too much after another time he didn't show up emotionally? You sit there hoping for some sign, some reaction, but he's just on his phone or changing the subject. Then your inner voice whispers, maybe I should be more patient. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe if I cared less, I wouldn't get hurt so much. And that's when the fifth forbidden phrase takes hold. It feels like giving up, but really it's slowly betraying yourself. It might seem small, but it's huge. Every time your needs are ignored and you tell yourself to get over it, you chip away at your own truth. You tell your body, my feelings are too much. My needs are a problem, not a signal. This isn't just polite, it's emotional gaslighting. But this time, it's coming from inside you. You silence your own gut feelings before anyone else can. And this is how many women start disappearing from their own lives, making their inner world smaller, quieter, less demanding. This is a survival tactic rooted in learned helplessness, where after repeated emotional pain, you start believing nothing you do makes a difference. So instead of speaking up, you shut down. You stop reaching out or expecting anything. And in that silence, loneliness grows. But hear this, your feelings are not too much. They're not crazy or dramatic. They're information. Your body's way of saying, something here hurts me. When you say it's not a big deal, you're not making peace. You're shrinking yourself to keep the peace. And that's not something you can keep doing. It's not brave or noble. It's just exhaustion dressed up as grace. Now imagine what happens when you start undoing that habit? What if you looked in the mirror and said, actually, this is a big deal. The way I'm treated isn't okay. How I feel matters, even if no one else agrees. This isn't selfish, it's self-respect. The moment you stop making your feelings smaller is the moment you begin to reclaim your value. And that shift changes more than just how you see yourself. It changes every relationship around you. When a woman stands in her truth and says, this matters to me, she sets a boundary. That boundary either asks others to rise or shows who can't keep up. And that kind of clarity is everything. So next time you hear yourself say it's not a big deal, stop and ask, what am I afraid will happen if I speak my truth right now? And what happens if I keep pretending it's nothing? You don't have to shrink to be loved. The right person won't want you to make your truth easier to handle. They'll lean in and listen. And if they don't, it's not your failure, it's your freedom. From confusion to clarity, from heart to power. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong people. Do you have any idea how many women walk through life without realizing just how incredibly captivating they really are? And no, I'm not just talking about physical looks. There's something much deeper and stronger than that. I'm speaking about that quiet magic, that unique way of walking, observing, expressing, and simply being that can leave a man completely taken aback, even if you're unaware of it yourself. What's most interesting is that many women don't even value it. You think that because you don't match some popular beauty ideal, you can't be that attractive. But what truly grabs our attention goes far beyond a slim figure or perfect makeup. It's that silent self-assurance, that realness that simply cannot be faked. It's the energy you carry when you enter a room without needing to say anything at all. Today, I want to share with you some of the clearest signs that you are much more attractive than you think. Men, even if we try not to show it, definitely notice and feel it deeply. Some of these signs are so subtle that you may have never even thought of them before. But trust me, we do notice. Stick around until the very end, because the 9th sign is one that most women overlook, but for us, it's one of the most irresistible. I promise after going through this, you'll start to see yourself in a totally new light. Here's the first one. Men act nervous around you. This is one of the truest and also most missed signs. When a guy acts awkward, avoids looking you in the eye, or seems slightly off, you might think he's just not interested. But actually, the opposite is true. He's more drawn to you than he knows how to handle. Pay close attention. When a man finds a woman stunning in a way that shakes him, his body gives him away. He might fidget with his shirt, touch his neck, keep folding and unfolding his arms for no reason, or he might talk faster than usual, or much slower, because he's worried he'll mess up. Sometimes he even goes completely quiet, like he's at a loss for words. This doesn't mean he's boring or lacking confidence. It's because your presence makes him feel unsure of himself. Some women don't just attract, they make a statement. Your vibe, your charm, your way of being can shake even the most confident man. So if you notice that someone who is usually relaxed suddenly acts different, gets stiff, stands weirdly, or seems more focused on what he's doing than what he's saying, believe me, you're having an effect. And the last thing you should do is shrink yourself to make him feel better. Own it. That kind of impact shows he sees you as someone special, not just someone to chat with casually. Next sign. People stare at you more than once, even if they don't say anything. It might sound simple, but this is a very strong sign that people feel drawn to you. When a woman truly carries something special, the environment picks up on it. You might think you're just passing through a place, grabbing a coffee or waiting in line, but from our side, something about you pulls the eye. And it's not just that first glance. The real giveaway is the second look. That moment when someone has already walked by, but turns around just to take another peek. You know what that second glance means? It means you made a stronger impression than we were ready for. That second look is one of the most honest reactions. because it shows we couldn't help ourselves. And it usually has nothing to do with what you're wearing or how your hair is styled. Sometimes it's just your walk, your calm confidence, your natural rhythm. Many women don't notice it because they're busy on their phones or focused on where they're going. But if you've ever caught someone looking back at you quietly, just know that's a big sign that you carry a certain power that speaks even when you're silent. And yes, sometimes we want to say something, but that second glance already reveals more than words could. Another sign, you doubt yourself but still get compliments all the time. This might be one of the most revealing signs. Has it ever happened that you didn't feel great? Maybe you thought your hair was off or your outfit was just okay, but someone still told you how amazing you looked. Or someone said something like, I don't know what it is, but there's something about you. That's not random. That's a clear signal that your energy stands out, even when you don't see it. It happens often with women who aren't trying to be perfect all the time, but still naturally awaken something in the people around them. You may think, why are they complimenting me today of all days? But it's because your beauty isn't just skin deep. It shows in your voice, in how you laugh, in how easily you move through the world. And we feel that, even if we don't always know how to put it into words. What's even more magnetic is the gap between how you see yourself and how others see you. That unawareness makes it even more attractive because you're not forcing anything. You're just being you. That mix of realness and feminine presence creates something we can't explain, but we can't ignore either. So when someone gives you a compliment, don't dismiss it. Accept it. That something they're seeing is you. Here's another one. They always find small reasons to talk to you. A lot of women don't notice this one. When a man is drawn to you but doesn't know how to approach directly, he'll come up with any excuse to start a chat. These reasons are usually small, like needing help with something, asking your opinion, or pretending to need guidance. On the surface, it might seem casual, but trust me, it's not. When a man is into you, he'll look for little ways to get close without making it too obvious, especially if you're the kind of woman who slightly intimidates him, just because he finds you so amazing. He might not walk right up and compliment you, but he'll absolutely come ask something simple just to be near you. If this happens more than once, if he keeps finding reasons to call, text, or be close to you for silly things, it's not about what he's asking. It's about wanting to be in your space. You might think it's just friendly, but take a closer look. If it comes with a nervous smile, a different tone, or strong eye contact, it means a lot more. Sometimes a, hey, how do I do this? Is really a hidden, I want to be around you, but don't know how to say it. Now for a tricky one. Other women criticize you without cause. It's not fun, but we need to talk about it. When a woman is truly captivating, not just in looks, but in how she carries herself, it doesn't always sit well with everyone. Some women, especially if they're not confident in themselves, might react negatively without you doing anything wrong. Maybe you notice weird stares, backhanded compliments, or odd comments like, you're too much, too stylish, too confident, too nice, or just too something. This isn't about you. It's about how they feel when they see you. Your presence makes them think more critically about themselves, and it triggers insecurity. Ever had someone call you stuck up before you even said a word, or try to compete with you over something you didn't care about? That's it. Not every woman will react this way. Many will love your energy and feel inspired by you. But when you start seeing strange negativity for no clear reason, don't let it get to you. See it for what it is, a sign you're glowing in a way others can't ignore. Because yes, your light might make some people uncomfortable, but that's just another clue that you are far more attractive than you think. Another common thing, people smile at you for no reason. Has it ever happened while you're walking, shopping, riding the bus, suddenly someone, usually a man, just smiles at you even though you've never spoken to him before? He doesn't say anything. He doesn't know you. He's not even trying to start a conversation, but he gives you a smile, sometimes shyly, almost like he's a bit embarrassed that you caught him, other times with a little more boldness, almost as if he's thinking, wow, what a vibe this woman gives off. And while it may seem like a small thing, it really isn't. That smile shows what you naturally send out into the world. Because when a woman is truly attractive, and I'm not just talking about how she looks physically, there's something she gives off. It shines. People feel it. There's something about the way she walks, the way she looks at the world, the way she just exists that quietly draws others in. That kind of pull makes many men feel the need to smile at her, even without a single word being exchanged. It's like a silent hello, a quiet, I like you, but I don't know what to do about it. And this isn't random. It's actually one of the most low-key but honest ways to see that your presence leaves an impact. Because a real unplanned smile isn't something you can fake. It just comes out, a natural reaction to the energy you're putting out without realizing. So next time someone smiles at you out of nowhere, don't brush it off. Don't assume it's nothing. Most likely, you're not even trying to be noticed. You're just naturally getting attention by being yourself. Sign 7. Men who are already in relationships seem to glance at you more often than usual. I know this can be an awkward or even uncomfortable topic, but it's worth saying. When a woman has a genuinely attractive energy, it's hard to ignore. Sometimes even men who are already committed or in serious relationships have trouble not noticing you. This doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong or seeking this attention. It just happens, probably more than you think. You're at an event, walking past people, sitting at a cafe, and suddenly you catch that look, that slightly too long gaze from someone who's clearly not available. Often they'll try to look away quickly because they know they shouldn't be looking, but their body language gives it away. Attraction isn't always something you can control, especially when it's sparked by something deeper than just physical looks. Here's something important. You're not doing anything to cause it. It's not your fault or your responsibility. It's just who you are. That presence, that essence, that natural energy, you can't turn it off. So don't feel guilty. Don't feel uncomfortable. See it for what it is. Evidence that the energy you carry is strong, magnetic, and hard to ignore, even by people who have someone else. Sign 8. You get a lot of attention online, even when you don't try to show much. This one's interesting. It's something men often pick up on, but many women don't fully see it themselves. You post a regular photo. Nothing flashy, no heavy filters, no revealing clothes, just something casual. And still the reactions come flooding in. Likes, comments, DMs. You're left wondering, what's so special about this photo? But here's the truth. It's not really about the photo. It's about you. When a woman has that natural attractiveness, she doesn't have to try hard to be noticed. Because it's not just about what can be seen. It's about what's felt. Your realness, your eyes, your unforced presence. Those things give off something even through a screen. And men can sense it. In fact, some feel overwhelmed by it. They don't know how to react to that kind of feminine energy that's soft but strong, subtle but undeniable. The funny thing is, you might not even realize it's happening. You might think you need to do more, pose better, wear more makeup. But your actual strength lies in the way you show up naturally. Even if you're just in a t-shirt, no makeup, just sharing a slice of your daily life, that raw, unfiltered version of you gets more attention than you think. That's one of the clearest signs that your appeal is way deeper than surface level. Sign 9. Men act a bit off or confused when they're around you. This is a strong sign, but a lot of women misunderstand it. You've probably experienced it. A man gives you lots of attention, seems super into you. He's talking, complimenting, making time for you. Then, suddenly, he backs off, vanishes. But just as suddenly, he comes back again like nothing happened. You're left thinking, is he playing games? Is he confused? And yes, he might actually be confused, but not in the way you think. Often he's not toying with you, he's overwhelmed. When a man is deeply drawn to a woman, especially one who feels different from the rest, it can throw him off. He may start feeling nervous, unsure of what to say or how to act. And instead of pushing through, he backs away, not because he doesn't care, but because he cares too much. You might misread his silence or distance as disinterest, but many times it's quite the opposite. He's working through how to approach you without making himself too vulnerable. Some men step away because they don't think they're good enough. Others come back after they've gathered some courage. But in both situations, they're showing you something. They feel something strong around you, and it shakes them up. So if a guy seems to disappear and reappear without explanation, pay close attention. It might not be confusion. It might be pure attraction. He just doesn't know what to do with it. Sign 10. You don't always see the power you actually have. This might be the most meaningful point of all. You'd be surprised how often the most attractive women have no idea just how powerful they are. They go through life second-guessing themselves, comparing themselves to others, wondering if they're enough. And meanwhile, they're the ones who stand out without even trying. Let me tell you this from a man's point of view. It shows. We see it when you walk into a room, not trying to be the center of attention, and yet somehow you are. It shows when you speak in a calm, clear way, not trying to impress, and end up being the one everyone listens to the most. And why? Because you're not trying, you're just being yourself, and that authenticity, that's where your true strength lives. But if you don't recognize it, that energy stays a bit hid. It's like having a powerful light, but keeping a soft cloth over it. When you finally accept your own value, not in a proud way, but with quiet confidence, something inside you changes. Your posture, your voice, your presence, all of it lines up. And people notice. They really do. So if you still sometimes wonder if you're enough, remember this: your power starts the moment you believe in it, not when someone else does. And 11. People feel it more when you're not there than when you are. And let me explain what that means. There's some women who, when they walk into a room, instantly draw attention. But then there are others, like you, whose absence is even more noticeable than their presence. It's like something goes missing in the air when you leave. That soft warmth, that way you have of making people feel calm and comfortable, suddenly it's gone, and the atmosphere changes. You might not even be aware of it. No one may say it out loud, but believe me, it's felt. Because when a woman has real beauty, not just on the outside, but in the way she makes others feel, her presence becomes unforgettable. And when that feeling disappears, people notice the difference. The mood shifts, the conversations lose a bit of spark, and suddenly people start thinking about you, even if they don't understand why. So if you've ever had someone watch you as you're leaving, or if you later get a message saying, "Hey, you left," take that seriously. It's their way of saying, you being here mattered. That kind of impact, you can't fake that. It's something you carry naturally. Sign 12. Silence with you doesn't feel awkward. It feels intense. Pay close attention to this because not many women realize it, but men definitely feel it. When a woman is truly attractive, there's no need to keep talking just to fill time. Her presence alone carries something powerful. Have you ever sat with a man and suddenly there's silence, but he doesn't pull out his phone, doesn't look around nervously, doesn't try to break the silence? He just stays there present with you. That's not accidental. That's real connection. It's not that he's out of words, it's that he's thinking, how is it possible that I feel this much just sitting here with her? He might not say it out loud, but he's feeling it. That ability to create comfort in silence, that quiet intensity, is only possible when a woman brings more than just looks to the moment. She brings depth, peace, intrigue. So if you've noticed that your presence alone keeps someone close, even without much talking, that's a sign that your energy is, ChatGPT said, speaking. And when that happens, you've already made an impression without even trying. Now tell me, have you seen these signs in your own life? Has someone ever looked at you in a way you didn't fully understand? Or maybe you've received attention without knowing what caused it? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to know. Because sometimes what you don't notice in yourself, others are feeling deeply. And talking about it might help you see just how much you really do shine. If this message helped you see yourself in a new light, if it reminded you that you don't need to try so hard to be special, then don't leave without liking, subscribing, and turning on notifications. Because here, we don't just talk about appearances, we talk about presence. That quiet, unstoppable energy that can't be taught, bought, or faked. It's felt. Always remember, you leave a mark with how you walk, how you see the world, and simply how you exist. And while you may still be asking if you're enough, there are people already hoping just to be near you. So yes, you're already far more powerful than you think. And this is just the beginning. See you in the next one.